Well, good morning, good evening, good night. It's been a hot minute. Yeah, it's been a while since we've spent some time together there. I'm not even sure who's going to join us here today, but uh, but anyways, I boy, just interesting. I see something already in the comments, but I think it's me. I don't know. I guess I did something there. Look at this. Facebook is always entertaining me and showing me something else that it decides to do without letting me know anything that's happening. So, anyways, I have no idea what's going on my screen, but I believe it's running. So, anyways, and I'm not sure who's going to join because it's been quite a few weeks since we've been running this. My apologies. It's just been a quagmire of different things going on. I was on tour a few weeks back, and oh, I'm gonna go to show this. I don't think I've had this mug yet, but we're kind of closing in the Halloween fall season, and we're about to hit the Christmas season here at the McKibben House, which is going to be crazy. But anyways, I'm just wanting to let you know I was away on tour up north for a week, and that was a lot of fun. And touring and went the furthest north I've ever been. I was up to Dawson Creek, and not Dawson's Creek. I don't want to wait for our lives to be over. Nope, it wasn't that one. But anyways, no, it was Dawson Creek, and so it was a lot of fun. The only downside, JB, hey, good to see you this morning. Great for having the full position here in the comment section. But the I yeah, I was up there doing a comedy tour with a guy named Cliff Prang, and it was hilarious. We had a lot of fun, and went the furthest I've ever been. Except just a note to self: don't plan a tour when it ends up ending on Thanksgiving weekend, because then I had to drive back 15 hours from Dawson Creek to come back for Thanksgiving. So I was Thanksgiving, I think is what it was, because in the snowstorm going through the Pines Pass, there were four silhouettes of moose that kind of, it was like Star Wars Blizzard and then moose. Anyways, but yeah, so but we're good. We're alive, and then just had to deal with some stuff coming back, and so it's been a couple of weeks, but we are back, and sadly, I can't believe it's only like two more of these sessions for Axe, and I haven't shared what's going to happen after that. To be honest with you, I'm still praying about what it is. Actually, I know what I feel I should be doing, and so I'm just wanting to settle in on that. But I'll be able to share more about that next time when we do this. Also, it's been a weird morning. Just, just share. This is like it's share season. No, but I got like a chemical in my eye. So if I'm rubbing my eye periodically, or if I look like I've got pink eye, I don't. It's just just something got. I had to flush it out. You're not with me for that reason. We're on this to take this on and finish up Acts. And so if you're joining us on YouTube or anything later, that's great. Thank you for joining us on this. Okay, let's take a prayer, and then let's jump into Acts 27 here today. So God, I want to thank you that we're here, regardless of the time zone, regardless of the time and the date. But God, you are, that's the cool thing, is that you transcend all of that. So I just ask that you would be present and real in our lives right now in this moment. We ask this, Jesus, in your name. Amen. Okay. Anyways, so the last time we got together, which was almost the same time as Paul actually did it. But yes, we were dealing with the ship storm that took place, that nor'easter, and when they should have listened to Paul, and they didn't, and so they lost the boat on it. But you're going to find something kind of interesting. There's going to be this comment today that Luke's going to make, and I don't know. Like I think we just kind of go, that's quirky, but then we don't really take time to look into it. And so today I want to tell you that I looked into it and I found something pretty interesting. So we'll jump on. Okay, verse 20 or verse 39 is where we are in Acts 27. And we're just going to go on and continue on from there. Okay, cool. All right. So it says that when daylight came, they did not recognize the land, but sighted a bay with a beach. Okay. So basically, what Luke is saying here is that this is like Bluebird Day. Like, and for those of you who are watching episode after episode, then this will be a little more linear. But just as a reminder, to those, oh my goodness, ouch, to those who had to kind of endure the last few weeks of not having something, that what this is that there was that big storm that took place, and oh my goodness, my eye, this is gonna be a challenge. Okay, so then there was this cloudiness that just was over them all the time, and then now they have to change this. I have to deal with this thing, and so we're just gonna have like a little play some music in the background. Just hold on a second. I just gonna... Okay, I'm right. I'm here. Okay, welcome to the Gong Show. Oh my goodness, this is gonna be so much fun. Okay, the blooper reel on this one. I'm gonna have to do this whole thing from. Okay. Ouch. Okay. This is this is of course when the viewer count starts going up. When I start looking like, I need to wear a patch or something like that. So yeah, I got some chemical in my eye earlier, and so it just really is irritating my eye. Okay, so just hold on one more second. Okay. This is the problem with being live, is that I wish I could re-record this, and part of me is really debating that right now. Okay, so oh my goodness, I may have to flesh this out a bit. Okay, let's just, I'm gonna see how far I can go with this. Okay, so there's this overcast sky that they had for all this time, and uh, so you have now they don't even know where they are. They had no directions, no planning, and so now they have this bluebird sky. Like, wow, all these things change. Okay, and they didn't recognize land. Okay, let's keep going here. Okay, they planned to run the ship ashore if they could. So just basically aim and shoot. After cutting loose the anchors, they left them in the sea. Okay, so now there's no chance of them getting through this thing at all. Okay, thank you, JP. I don't normally comment on the comments, but I tell you, you're you're really, really. I appreciate that holding in there, and I will. If I start like not seeing anything, then I'll turn this thing off, and then I'll just crawl to whatever faucet or something like that. I can jump onto. Okay, all right. This is after cutting loose the anchors, they left them in the sea, at the same time loosening the ropes that held the rudders. Okay, so the ropes would have held the rudders in place so that so now they're just kind of like letting everything go. Then they hoisted the foresail to the wind and headed for the beach. Okay, but they struck a sandbar. So just so you know what a sandbar is, you probably do. Like, it's just where there's like a water trough in between land. So you have land, water trough, and then land, but it's still underwater. So it's a sandbar. It's higher, but it's like a moat. But now you're okay. You're with me. Okay. So it says, but they struck a sandbar and ran the ship aground. The bow jammed fast and remained immovable when the stern began to break up by the pounding of the waves. So think of this. You got the ship coming in, hits the sandbar, and now it's stuck. Now that's the bow. You got the stern. It's getting all the waves. Boom, boom, boom on the back of the ship, right? And so what happens is it starts to break up. Pounding the waves. Okay. So verse 42 says, catch this. The soldiers' plan was to kill the prisoners so that no one could swim away and escape. Well, that escalated quickly, or de escalated, or whatever, degraded quickly. Just so you understand the concept of what's going on here, is that was what is commonly in the business world known as SOPs. Those are standards of operations, procedures, right? Standard operating procedures. So if the soldiers could not contain the prisoners, if there was fear of them being or escaping, it was kind of like if they escape, you die. So really, it was a last resort for the soldiers to kill the prisoners because it was better for them to be punished for killing the prisoners than to lose their life altogether. Basically, is how it was viewed by them. So it was a last ditch resort. It wasn't, they wouldn't get a slap on the wrist. They would be punished for it, but it was better than dying. Okay? So that's really what they were planning to do with these prisoners. But the centurion, remember, Paul has this thing going on with the centurion. This person has kind of like been following the whole process with Paul, even in some of his interactions with the royalty and with the king, the high priest, and stuff like this, right? So the centurion kept them from carrying out their plan because he wanted to save Paul, and so he ordered those who could swim to jump overboard first and get to land. Okay, the rest were to follow, some on planks and some on debris from the ship. In this way, everyone safely reached the shore. Okay, so just because I thought of it while we were going through the process and I was doing the studying on all of this, that when you look at it here, that I find it interesting here that what the centurion does is he gets those who can swim to go, and then the rest of them to follow, right? And just the truth is, as a leader, that those that cannot need to follow those that can. And I've been in situations in the past where, and I don't want to digress too much on this, but I think it's important to note that it's interesting that the biblical understanding that when God was putting the groups together, it was basically in tens, 50s, and hundreds, and it broke out from there. But like there was to be a leader for like every 10 people, so to speak. And it's interesting that in from a sociological perspective, and there wouldn't have been this sort of grand study or psychology or anything in that day, that about roughly 11%, so 1 out of 9 people have leadership ability, have leadership skills, have leader not I won't say skills, have leadership desire, so to speak. And that means that there's like 8 out of the 9 people that are quite comfortable not leading. They're quite comfortable being at various levels of maybe management or managing or just, hey, I'll just do. But to be the leader, to be the trailblazer, to be the one that's going to go there and swath through the what hasn't been done yet, that's a very select few people there. And I just find that interesting for us to catch that I've been in those situations where those leaders have been stripped away, where all of a sudden you're left with a number of people that, or at least a very, very reduced amount of people that are willing to lead, but that most of them are like, well, I just kind of wanted to like be part of the group. And it's not a bad thing. Like everyone thinks that, oh no, you got to be a leader. No, that's like reserved for certain people to lead that, and that's okay. But those that can't do things, they need to have people that they can follow and lead them. And so I think about even just this, the fact that there are so many people that follow along on this and have been on this journey and are willing to be well, I just use the term follow, in this, but at the same time, I'm following. I'm doing my own. I have my own circle of people who are leading me, right? So, just the idea that we need. I've spent a lot of time on this. I should really need to keep going, but the idea that we need to stay in the lane and be comfortable in that lane. It's- some people feel guilty that they're not leading. Well, no, that just I'm releasing you. I'm letting you know it's okay to not feel like I don't want to be a leader. You're not alone. If anything, you're in the majority. That those that have a propensity to lead, or maybe I should say those that have the abilities to lead that don't lead, that's a problem, right? Because now you're really reducing it, right? Because there's not a lot of you out there. So if you have that leadership ability, if you know that you should be a leader, then get in that lane. Don't hide like Saul in the baggage. Not Saul meaning Paul in this case, but Saul meaning King Saul. That you hide in the baggage, and because you don't want to lead. No, you need to step up and to lead. Okay, let's keep going. Okay. Oh, well, look at that. This is the last time, friends, on when it comes to Acts, that we are, guess where we are? Chapter 28, baby. That's it. We are in the last chapter of Acts. Here we go. Okay. Now we're going to talk about something that's really, really quite a twist here. Okay. So we have verse 1 of chapter 28 says, once safely ashore, we then learned, okay, that the island was called Malta. Now, all I'm going to say about that is that it is about 60 kilometers south of Sicily. Okay, so it's an island. Then you have Sicily. Sicily, uh, yeah, it's Malta. Okay, the local people. I love this part. Showed us extraordinary kindness. Extraordinary kindness. The the word there I'm not going to say it in the Greek, but we get the word philanthropy from it. Okay, it was extraordinary kindness. The extraordinary part is literally out of the ordinary. So it was almost abordinary, right? This was not something that was routine. But what I found really cool here is it was extraordinary. Catch this, to Paul. It was extraordinary to Luke. It was extraordinary to these prisoners. It was extraordinary to the centurions. But it was not extraordinary to the Maltans. Okay? Think about that. This was not extraordinary behavior to the Maltans. This is what they did. To them, it was ordinary. And I really think about that. That just recently, Carrie and I we're talking with some people and talking about the fact that extraordinary always stems from the ordinary, right? We heard somebody on Sunday talking about that extraordinary stems from the ordinary. And you look about what God has done in people's lives, it really was when ordinary people allowed God to do extraordinary things through them. And we see here, these Maltans, this has just become their norm. The idea of being philanthropic, like kindness, the word for kindness there, philanthropy, which just if you want to understand, the breakdown on that, phil means brotherly love, like Philadelphia. And so you have Phil, and then you have anthropy, like anthropology, right? So the study of man, humanity. So it is the love of mankind, right? It's the love of humanity. This is what the Maltans were not judging based on color, based on race, based on language, based on gender, based on anything. They just loved, showed kindness because of their kindness, right? Their willingness to be kind. It was unconditional, right? It is love for mankind in its entirety, and that's what I think is so cool. Is that when we talk about this idea, they says, "Wow, they showed us extraordinary kindness." All that means is that they made their unconditional love, okay, they made it seem outside of the ordinary because that's just not how society works. And I believe that that was Jesus's call for us as the church to stand out. Why? How? By just loving, right? They will know that you are Christians by your love for one another. The church is so rife. Rife is really not the right word. That's a positive word, but it's just teeming with people that are wanting to be divisive and wanting to cause fractions or factions or drama or whatever. And that's just internal. Like, imagine what would happen if we just loved unconditionally. We see, who are the people that we think about? Mother Teresa, Salvation Army. We think about these people that have done these incredible acts of generosity, and it really was just an outpouring of what was already happening on the inside in their lives. And so I believe that that's what God is calling us to be doing here too, and probably was a bit of a revelation even to Luke and Paul when you're looking at this. And we are not even done verse 2, so I better keep this thing rolling a bit. So it says this: they lit a fire and took us all in, since it was raining and cold, as Paul gathered a bundle of brushwood and put it in on the fire, which I think is really cool here. That Paul was participating. Like, they built the fire, but Paul wasn't just sitting there and saying, thanks, thank you, take care of me. No, Paul's doing something about it. But it says, as Paul gathered a bundle of brushwood and put it on the fire, a viper, okay, came out because of the heat and fastened itself on his hand. I looked into this a bit, not much to really catch into that. I thought, okay, but it's just basically, it was just attached to him, right? As Paul, okay, so this is when the local people, this is good, I like this. When the local people saw the snake hanging from his hand, they said to, not Paul, they said to, not the leaders, they said to, not the centurion, they said to, not the government, they said to one another, which is such human nature. This man, no doubt, catch that part, no doubt, this man, no doubt, is a murderer. Even though he has escaped the sea, justice has not allowed him to live. No doubt, he's a murderer. My goodness, how many times do we see that in social media and on Facebook and social posts and that? No doubt, they're wrong, or oh, they're guilty. You hear about a high-profile celebrity case. Oh, they're guilty. Kill them and stuff. We jump to that conclusion right away. So local people said, this man, no doubt, is a murderer. Not even just like a criminal or whatever. Murderer. He's got to be a murderer, right? And we need to watch what happens here, because I've seen this a lot in ministry. Okay, no doubt he's a murderer. But he shook the snake off, verse 5 says, into the fire. Okay, I'm way too dramatic here. Okay, but catch this. It says this, but he shook the snake off into the fire and suffered no harm. He defied the medical reaction. Okay, he defied what was supposed to happen. Yeah, I'll leave that. I was gonna tell a story about that. Well, I had some basically snake venom at one point in me, and I had a whole bunch of people watching me to see what would happen. Right? So like it's bad stuff. It's bad stuff. Okay, I sound like Trump. It's bad. It's bad stuff. Okay, all right. Verse 6 says this: they expected that he would begin to swell up or suddenly drop dead. After they waited a long time and saw nothing unusual happen to him, they changed their mind and said he was a god. No, no doubt. This guy is a murderer. Wait, he's living. He's a lot. He's not even sick. He's a god. He's a god. It's like he is. bing or bing. There's no middle in this thing. He's either a murderer or he's the Messiah, right? Basically, maybe that's what I should have called the today, murderer Messiah. But there's no middle ground. And I've seen that. We've seen this in the church that we just like, people are like, oh, that person, like, they're the worst, they're the worst. And then you find the story change, oh, they're the best, they're the best. And it's not just the church, it's everywhere. I get it. I get it. But it's just, that just happens, right? And we kind of jump to those conclusions, and maybe we should slow down our roll a bit sometimes. Okay, verse 7 says this. Okay, verse 7 says, now in the area around that place was an estate belonging to a leading man of the island named Publius. Okay, we heard that name before. Different guy, but obviously it a little popular here, who welcomed us and entertained us hospitably for 3 days. Publius's father was in bed suffering from a fever and dysentery. Okay, so I didn't know what that was. I looked it up. Not sure I ever wanted to know what that was now. But the Craig McKibben version is, I'll just give it to you this way. Publius's dad was in bed with a fever and the bloody runs. Okay, it's just basically the best way. Sorry for those of you that it's still like not 7 o'clock in the morning here out west. I apologize. But yes, that's what it was. The bloody runs. Okay, Paul went to him and praying and laying his hands on him, he healed him. Okay, now I want to say this just quickly, and I just realized, boy, goodness, I took too long here. Paul, that we know Paul didn't heal the man. It says Paul went to him and he healed him. We know Paul didn't heal the man, but it's the language that we use and Luke used. And so we should not downplay how our obedience allows God to do the ordinary things on his level. They're ordinary to God. They're extraordinary to us, but they're ordinary to him. And I know that, so we pray for somebody and they were healed, and then you may say, well, it wasn't me, right? We understand that. But we should also understand that we are the vessel that God is choosing to use in that moment, okay? And just be grateful for that. Okay, verse 9 says this. After this, the rest of those on the island who had diseases also came and were healed. Okay, of course, right? Word gets out. And I believe that, let's not worry so much about in church having the best laser lights or having this and that. I'll tell you, you see the power of God, you're going to see a church, you're going to see a community that wants to see more, right? And that happened with Jesus. And it's not that God becomes the show, it's that God becomes the focus. And that's a big difference. Okay, verse 10 says this. So they heaped many honors on us. Okay, so they were just like so moved by the fact that there was healings on it, so they heaped honors on that. Okay, and when we sailed, they gave us what we needed. And think about that. Again, there's this generosity theme going through this, and how the Maltons were showing extraordinary kindness, but they were also responding to what they saw was being extraordinary kindness from God and Paul in this situation. So this was not transactional, but it was, in my opinion, very responsive, right? So Paul was able to bring healing to, like, through God, see, to the people, and so they gave back out of generosity. And I think that the same can be said for us, that we need to remember that when it comes to God, when it comes to giving, when it comes to service, when it comes to anything, we go, oh, I don't want to serve, or I don't want to do that. No, why aren't we responding to the being the benefactors of God's beauty and his grace and his power and his healing and his blessing on our lives? It should be a response to that. It should not feel contractual. It should not feel like it's a penance or a payment or tribute, or what's the word that they use, not triumph, but when you tribute, right? So tribute to kind of keep the king from coming and invading, right? No, no, no. It should be response to what God does. Okay, verse 11 says this. After 3 months, we set sail in an Alexandrian ship, Greek ship, that had wintered at the island with the twin gods as its figurehead. Okay, so let me just tell you this, and I'll be as quick as I can. That I want to try reading it the way that I think Luke wanted to write it. This is my own opinion. And so you can tell me your thoughts in the comment section. I'd love to get that. But it says, after 3 months, we set sail in an Alexandrian ship. This is how I think Luke wrote it, that had wintered at the island with the twin gods as its figurehead. Okay. So they would know what that meant back in that day. Do we know what that means? No. So I went and looked up what it meant. So the twin gods that are being referenced here are the god Castor and the god Pollux, okay, who were two sons of Zeus, okay? So, okay, that's fine. The Greeks saw them as being the protectors of sailors. So here are these two gods. And so like, okay, here we go. Okay, so we get on a ship that has the twin gods that are going to protect us. Okay, we know like how easily you can lose a ship. Okay, so like it was almost sarcastic, I believe, that Luke's like, what are the odds? What are the odds that we now have this like, ooh, thanks for the figurehead. You know, even he uses the word figurehead, right? Okay, and then goes on to say, putting in at Syracuse. Okay, not New York, what we're dealing with out there. We stayed 3 days. From there, after making a circuit around the coast, we reached Rhegium. After 1 day, a wind sprang up, and the second day we came to Puteoli. Okay, there we found brothers and sisters who were invited to stay a week with them. Oh, and okay, sisters, and were invited to stay a week with them. And so we came to Rome. 7 o'clock, now in Rome. Verse 6:15 says, now the brothers and sisters from there had heard the news about us and had come to meet us as far as the Forum of Appius and the Three Taverns. It sounds like a nursery rhyme, like, Appius and the Three Taverns. Okay. When Paul saw them, he thanked God. Didn't thank the figurehead, didn't thank Pollux, didn't thank Castor. He thanked God and took courage. When we entered Rome, Paul was allowed to live by himself with the soldier who guarded him. Beautiful. As beautiful as it can be with a soldier. But the fact that there's this relationship that is built there, that this soldier, obviously Paul has had a impact that he's now living with the soldier who guarded him. Okay. Anyways, it's 7 o'clock. Just, I pray that you receive from today just what really stood out to you. Maybe in the comment section, put in there and say, this is what stood out to me. I'd love to read those comments. That would be really cool. And I don't know why I haven't thought about that before. Just like, what stood out to you and what did the Holy Spirit show you today? It doesn't matter how far it is that you watch this. Put it in there. Next week, it's called The Endless Ending. Yep, Endless Ending. And I think that it's only fitting based on where we are in the book of Acts to leave you with this wisdom today that as you face today, just remember that old saying, when in Rome, let sleeping dogs lie. Next time, we bring this thing to a close. God bless you guys. Go in peace.